Hi.
That's strange.
Hi. We'll start here in a minute.
Professor,
Yeah,
do we have classes next week?
we'll have class. Thank you for reminding me. We will meet for, well, let me wait for the start of the class because I need to explain this when the class starts. So thank you for asking because I would have forgotten if you hadn't mentioned it, which would have been bad. But
Okay.
I just want to make sure I get also the debate set up so that okay, it's 11 o'clock. So the smart attendance number is 444. 444 is your smart attendance number. So let me put that in the chat. And 444 is your number, 444. Okay, and regarding next week, so I'm going to meet individually with you on Zoom to discuss my comments on your first draft. And if you were late submitting your first draft, I will look at that by Sunday and send it to you. Then I've been really busy. I mean, there's an online conference going on. I just mentioned to my European Union policymaking class that it's a big international conference and it starts at 11 o'clock at night, my time. I mean, I can show it to you because I'm at my computer. So just to show you what I've been doing, you know, this is what professors typically do when they're when in the time of COVID. Well, they go to conferences, write papers and go to conferences, but this is the conference I've been attending. So this is what I did this morning, beginning 11 o'clock last night until a quarter to 9, 8:45 this morning. I attended these panels, and I was a Zoom manager and of these panels. So I just gotta, you know, that's just the way it is. And so you know, and it went until 8:45 a.m. this morning. And then there's one more session coming up tonight. It starts again at 11 o'clock tonight and goes until 7:45 in the morning tomorrow. So Saturday, after I recover from this, I will look at any late papers that were submitted, set comments to you. So that's what we're going to do. But people have scheduled some, we have a debate scheduled for next week. So let me go ahead and open that up. Go to Google Drive. And I think you can see this. If not, I'll make sure that you can see it by sharing the screen. And so I go to Google Drive. Where's Google Drive? It should show up, pop up here. And yeah, there it is. So you can see that Kim Eugene and Ido He have signed up for a debate for week 15. So my plan is Kim Eugene, Ido He, are you here?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
We're going to have the debate on Wednesday online. There will not be will not have in-class meeting. We'll meet online. And let me open up that file as well. So you can see I blocked out a, make sure that you can see this because I blocked out a time on Wednesday from 11 to 12. So from 11 to 12, we will meet online just for an hour and we will have your debate. Okay.
Professor,
Yeah.
if everybody is okay, can we do it on Friday as we planned?
Well, the problem is people have signed up for Friday time slot. So we can reschedule it on Friday, say to 2 to 2:30, if you prefer to do that way. We'll have your debate on Friday, 2 to 2:30. Is that, or 2 to 3? Is that what you prefer?
Yeah, I'm okay with that, but it's
Kim Eugene, are you okay with that?
Yeah, I'm okay with that, but other people should agree, isn't it?
Ido He, do you agree to it?
Excuse me. You mean start 2 p.m. or?
Well, I mean, are you just, it's just not convenient to do it on Wednesday because is that the problem, that you need more time because you have other
Yes.
classes or something?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I also have a final exam at the time.
Okay, I mean, I apologize for this. Yeah, people have signed up for. What about 9 to 9:30 on Friday? Is everybody okay with having a debate on 9 to 9:30, online debate, 9 to 9:30 in the morning?
I'm
Yeah,
okay.
I'm okay with that.
Anybody not okay with that? Anybody opposed?
We normally have an exam from 12 to 1, so I think it should be doable.
9 to 9:30? Okay. Yeah, I don't know what I was thinking. I mean, the problem is I got confused because I have to make up the class I missed on Monday when I was flying back from New Orleans for this conference that's going on now. So, okay, well, let's do it like this. Then we'll have the debate on 9 to 9:30 in the morning on Friday for your U.S. foreign policy class. Okay, we'll just meet for an hour and maybe I can, do it like that. Is that going to work? Yeah, I mean, we'll just, I can't remember how to paint this in right now. I did it before, but I can't recall how to do it. So, okay, let's schedule the debate for, there we go. Okay, so 9 to 9:30 on Friday, we will meet online for the debate. So please, everybody show up because I need you to vote on who won the debate and to grade the debate. Okay. And okay, so I will send you a reminder that we're meeting at 9 o'clock instead of 10 o'clock. No, that's okay. That's right. Sorry. Oh, I'm so confused. No, 9 o'clock. Yeah, that usually, oh yeah, okay. At 9 o'clock on Friday, we usually have European Union policymaking class. We're not having a European Union policymaking class because we don't need to. But so at 9 and 9:30, on 9 to 10 on Friday, we will meet for U.S. foreign policy only online. And I will send you reminders. Can you, so you'll show up, right? Everybody will show up? Good, okay. So I will open up.
I also got an exam that day though, but
Yeah, but at 12 to 12:30, right? Can you just show up for the debate?
I got an exam from 12 to 1.
Okay, but what about 9 to 10? Can you show up for 9 to 10
Yeah, I'll try.
online? Okay.
Professor, what about we do it at like afternoon on Friday, if it's okay?
Well, okay, that's another option. Do you want to have it? You want to have it on? Would you everybody prefer to have the debate on Friday at 2 to 3 in the afternoon?
Yeah,
Yeah,
since
that's also possible.
yeah,
That could
since
be also easier because then we could revise our exam from
Okay.
Yeah.
the one from 12 to 1.
Okay, then
So-
we'll do that. We'll do that. I'll clear that out. And paint that back to 0 to clear. Okay, and then we will go here. So this is when we'll have the debate. On Friday, 2 to 3. And so that's when we'll have the debate, Friday, 2 to 3. And we'll just, that makes, okay, all right. So, and I'll meet with you individually starting at 10 o'clock, 10, 10:30, 11, 11:30, 12, and then we'll have the debate 2 to 2:30. Okay, all right. So again, I'm sorry about that. I don't know what I was thinking, but all right. And speaking of the debate, we need to go to our debate, and because I'm sure it's going to be a vigorous debate. And so let me stop that share and go and make multiple participants able to screen share. So Nick and let me see, open up the
And Timan.
yeah, and Timan. I'm looking for my my lesson plan. Nick and Timan, okay, Nick and Timan. So are debating now on this topic. So I think you can see that. Let me go ahead and screen share that again, just to make sure that that comes up. So you can see on to South Koreans, China will be more effective than the US in providing global leadership in addressing climate change. So I think we should go directly to it to make sure we have enough time for it in case it goes half an hour. So Nick will speak for up to 6 minutes. We're flexible on that. And then you can ask questions. If you'd like to get a little extra credit participation, anybody. And then Timan also rebut for Khan, and then for up to 6 minutes. And then Nikita Pro will rebut Timan for 3 minutes, and then Khan will rebut and conclude for 7 minutes maximum. And then Nick has the last word for 3 minutes. So I've made screen sharing optional, so possible. So Nick, if you have something open, please, if a file to show, to present, please open it.
Yes.
Timan as well. And you should be able to screen share. So Nick, if you have something to screen share, could you please screen share now?
Do you see my screen?
No, we don't. Oh,
Now
yeah,
I do.
yes, we
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And you are now ready to go.
Okay, so the topic is China will be more effective than the US in providing global leadership in addressing climate change. Well, first of all, we would know how will climate change affect China? Well, the sea level will rise. It will bring stronger storms and more intense heat waves. And some of the Chinese coastal cities will be submerged, like Shanghai, which is a very populated city. And if the average global temperature will keep rising, then an estimation of 43 million Chinese people who live close nearby these cities will be submerged underwater by the end of the century. So here's the table of contents. I'm just going to proceed. So what is China doing to reduce its emissions? Well, here are some of the things that China is trying to achieve by Xi Jinping's recognition of climate change by his administration, which is achieving carbon neutrality by 2060, reaching peak carbon dioxide emissions before 2030, having renewable energy sources account for 25% of its consumptions by 2030, reducing carbon intensity, installing enough solar and wind panel generators to have a combined total of 1.2 billion kilowatts by 2030, and an increase the forest coverage by around 6 billion cubic meters. Also want to mention that China is the world leading manufacturer of solar panels and wind power generators and hydropowers for years. as well as China is currently building, as of mid-2021, nuclear power capacities to even help with powering these technologies to reduce overall climate change. Beijing and some provinces are also incentivizing electrical vehicle usage. In 2020 alone, 1.3 million new energy vehicles were sold, which includes battery electrical, plug-in hybrids, hydrogen fuel cell vehicles that were sold in China. This was actually an increase from over 11% from the previous year. Beijing has also attempted to make BRI more environmentally sustainable by announcing environmental standards, but so far these have all been voluntarily made by China only. BRI is, actually want to show something. BRI, I think you can still see my screen, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so BRI is a movement by China, where they invest a lot of money, energy projects, and other countries outside itself. So here you can see some of the countries, mainly in Africa, in Russia, Asia, even Latin America, they've been starting to invest as well. And if you look at the table of contents, they are investing quite a lot of money, like billions of dollars, to fasten the process of climate change within countries that aren't really that, let's say, powerful or economically wealthy as the US or even China, like Pakistan, Cambodia, Turkey, Vietnam, etc. PowerPoint. So how has China cooperated with the rest of the world with climate change? As of 2016, the Paris Agreement is an agreement to basically reduce climate change with certain specific goals that the countries have to reach and abide to by a specific time. In 2016, actually on the same day, China and the US joined together. What I do want to mention is, which is quite weird if you think about it, is back when Donald Trump was president in 2017, he basically said, I don't agree with climate change. I think it's something made up by the Chinese, which is a very bold statement to make. And therefore, he actually resigned of the Paris agreements. He didn't agree to them anymore of 2017 as 2020, I believe. The US just didn't participate in the Paris agreements. Of course, they still did something for emissions, but not abiding by the Paris agreements anymore. China has also opened ramping up commitments towards carbon emissions, because carbon emissions is one of the main lackluster aspects of China. And as you may know, there are quite a lot of factories that are emitting quite a lot, like Beijing, where a lot of the people, the citizens who live there, the Chinese people, they wear masks, there's toxic smog, whatever. But China actually invested quite a lot of money in carbon emissions in Beijing, in China itself, as well as other countries, to not affect their neighbors anymore, like Korea and etc. Because as you may know, the toxic smogs or the toxic rains and smogs, they will pass through to Korea, etc. Therefore, they started investing into carbon emissions as of 2017. I believe they started in Beijing, which is quite a big manufacturing city. And as well, they have an emission trading scheme with other countries, as I mentioned, like Korea and their neighboring countries, to incentivize this carbon emission. Was that my time?
Yeah, but you can finish.
Okay, I'll proceed. Well, I can proceed further on when I hear the debate of Eamon's side.
Okay. Does
Okay.
anybody want to challenge Nick? Anybody want to challenge Nick with a question? An incisive Sharp.
I mean, I can already actually
Well,
ask.
no,
a
no, no,
question.
you're a
Okay.
participant, so the other,
Okay.
you're gonna be rebutting and debating, so anybody else besides T-Men want to challenge Nick with a question? Going once, going twice. Nick will speak twice more. All right, T-Men,
Okay.
fire away.
Perfect. So, wait a second. Okay, so I don't have a PowerPoint, but hello everyone. I'm
Yeah.
Teeman, and I actually do not agree with the statements. First of all, when analyzing the statements,
You're gonna share your screen?
I don't have anything of.
Oh,
I don't
okay.
have first of all, when analyzing the statement, the part that I find most important is the words providing global leadership. For me, providing global leadership is defined by being a world influence. And a world influence should set an example. And how can it, and for me, the big question is how can one totalitarian political regime be an influence if they rule by spreading fear? There's almost no accountability from China, and before they could be anything close to being a world influence, this should have to change. Do we really actually want a Mordor, a Sauron from the 21st century being China? We do really want them to be a world leader in anything, especially in such an important topic such as climate change? Mordor is not capable of doing this, and during this debate, I will further make you clear why this is not possible at all. We should not review what they are doing to change the climate, but we should argument why they are not capable of being a world leader. For me, it's very clear. China is not ready to be a world leader in anything. And so we don't have to look at, like Nikita started saying, we don't have to look at what they're trying to do for the climate. No, that's not important at all. It's about being able to take the initiative of being a world leader. So first of all, China is still a growing company. They're still in the growing stages of their life, and they're still very poor. They're still highly industrializing, which means that their emissions are still skyrocketing. Even though China is a growing nation, it is still very poor. It needs its resources to continue growing, like Europe and the US needed to do in the 20th century. So how can we rely on China to be a world leader in climate change if they still need all those emissions to just grow? Being a world influence is not easy to do either. The US has been a world influence since after the World War, and they've actually been very experienced with that. But China doesn't have any experience into being the world leaders. Also, let's be honest, China's prime was back when there was the Tang dynasty. That was between 600 and 900 AD. They're not contenders at the moment, they're pretenders. Their GDP is so high because there were so many people. There's such a large population. They're actually not that special, in my opinion. They're just with 1/3 of their population is the population of the world, and that's why everyone is so afraid of it. But should we actually be afraid of China? That's the real big question, because they're still so poor. Because of this one-party state system, if someone doesn't believe in climate change in China, it's easier to neglect the entire situation. If there is only one party who has power over the entire nation, and the switch of power never happens, you can, of course, this can just be very bad for the entire world, especially because 1/3 of the population is Chinese. You could, of course, say that Donald Trump also canceled the Paris Agreement, but the US wasn't allowed to really drop out, so they had to abide by the rules until 2020. By 2020, Biden was back at the power, so they actually implement the Paris Agreement again. So actually, you can actually say that the US never really dropped out of the Paris Agreement because they were obliged to stay in the Paris Agreement until 2020, and Biden then just took over and put themselves back into Paris Agreement. The thing with the US is that you can only be a president for 8 years. So there can be a screw up like Trump, which is like an extraordinary case. He can only be president for 8 years. This time it was only 4 years because in the US we always have something called the impeachment. I conclude with this, that because of the democratic system of the US, it is better than to just just have a president for 4 years, because a president such as Xi Jinping, who has been in office too long. On the recent climate talk as well, in the COP26 in November, Xi Jinping also said that they are still far away from being carbon neutral. As Nikita said, in 2060, they want to be carbon neutral, whereas America and Europe wants to be carbon neutral way earlier. So is 2060 not too late to become carbon neutral? All the other world leaders are becoming carbon neutral way closer to now, not 2060. So why would China have to be a world leader then if they can only achieve carbon neutrality in 2060? Also, the thing is that even though I believe that China is not fit to have a global leadership, it is important that China is included in everything, because they do have the biggest emissions of the world. So that's why I do not agree with the fact that they should be the global leader, but they should actually also be accounted by the US, and the US can do this because of their soft power, which is actually the best way that they've always been working at. I believe that they can actually do business with China and implement what they've been doing all like the past so many years. So I'll just round up as well. As last, I would just like to say that I do not believe a country who still violates human rights laws can be world leader in anything before they actually solve the fact that they are still breaching the human rights laws. They don't have any credibility. And I mean, how can a country be an example if they don't even care for their own population?
Okay. Who would like to challenge T-Man with an extra credit question? Not Nick. Anyone else want to challenge T-Man? T-Man, no one wants to challenge you yet. Well, Nick does. Nick,
Yes.
challenge T-Man, rebut him.
I'll return to sharing my screen. So first of all, before I continue with my PowerPoint, I totally disagree with China not being able to be the leader in anything. They're the leader in export. They're the leader in manufacturing, actually, solar panels and wind power energy. So that already contradicts your statement. They're already investing quite a lot of money. They're actually the number one investors in renewable energy in the world. Which is quite funny that you mention it, in the global index of what is it called again? Sorry, the climate change performance index. The US is actually almost last in place of the top 64 countries in the world, whilst China is packed in the middle. All right. So have China and the US worked together? Despite tensions between the US and China, China has actually worked together with the US to come to certain agreements, and that's actually what I mentioned with the emissions, the net zero emissions. That was actually made with the US to try to get net zero emissions by 2060. That was actually made together. So kind of weird that you mentioned that. Why would China be 2060? That's kind of late, because the US actually together decided to do that, because they are the top two countries who emit the most, China being number one and the US being number two. Also, back during the Barack Obama administration, Barack Obama expanded collaboration among Chinese and American companies, scientists, and experts on clean energy and carbon capture technologies. But as of late, after Barack Obama's administration during Trump's, there wasn't really any collaboration, but with Biden, it is actually picking up again, because I think it's not, the thing is not being not the world leader in one thing, because it's taking accountability and trying to better the world, because it will affect everybody. As I mentioned before, over 40 million people could die and lose their homes because of climate change by just 2 degrees Celsius increase of yearly temperature, or average yearly temperature. So who is the most innovative? And here is to the left, you can see China is the #1 emitter in the world, and the US being #2. Of course, you can see that 27% of the global emissions is China and 11 is the US. So it's about 3 times as much, almost 3 times, like 2 point something times as much as the US. But as I mentioned before, China produces more wind and solar power than the US. They're actually the global leaders, and they sell all these technologies all around the world. So they're kind of the maker, the producer of the equation of the problem. Also, the average American is responsible for more emissions than the average person in China. Of course, it has to do with the country being more wealthy, but it's kind of interesting if you think about it, because China has a population of 1.4 billion, and here you can totally see that the difference is quite significant. The total emissions is higher per person. The land and sea shipping travel, because yeah, Americans, they really love their cars. They always have 2 to 3 cars in a family hold. And aviation, they love to travel around within their own country by aviation. The public transport isn't usually a thing that the US really like. As well as the United States actually has emitted historically the most. They've emitted around 509 million tons of CO2 emissions throughout history, whilst China only has half of that. So even though we're talking about climate change now for the past maybe 20 years, because we started to see how it really affects us, all the things that the United States has done since the 19th century, and they've always been #1 in cumulative CO2 emissions, has actually impacted us today as well. So that's also an interesting thing to look at, because the US always points the finger to China, but the US has actually always been #1 historically and cumulatively.
Okay.
I also wanted to show some graphs.
Well, yeah, I mean, you have another a chance to speak. You're going to
yeah, sure.
conclude. I just want to, put some limits on it. But now, who wants to challenge Nick with an extra credit question, a challenging question to pro, other than Tiemann? Anyone going once, going twice, going 3 times?
I maybe.
Oh, Gilles! Fire away, Gilles!
Everything in mute. How is it relevant, the emission levels that one has produced over a period of time? Because the United States has been industrialized way longer than China. What does its history have to do with their capability of being a global leader in climate change?
Well, the fact is, before the industrialization of China, the US has always been the #1 emitter in the world. And nobody really pointed the finger at US saying, oh, look at what they are doing. This is horrible. And we have to look at it by effect historically. All of these emissions still affect the climate today and the future climate as well, right? Why did the US never do or tried to reduce emissions for over, well, let's say 2 decades? No, not 200 years, basically, almost 200 years. Whilst the industrialization here really started picking up for China in the last, let's say, since the 1960s to what we got to now. And it's quite interesting to look at how little of an effort the US has tried, even though their economy has always been, well, one of the best, if you would look at it. And the Chinese, they've only really started blooming the past couple of decades economically, and they've already invested way more than the US has in different countries and technologies than the US. So they've already took more initiative. Okay, they might the industrialization took, it's more relevant these days because it's closer. We know more of it. It's not a couple of 100 years ago, but to look at the ways that they implemented new changes and how to actually, well, take on the problem, China has been doing way better.
Anyone else have a question to Nick? Going once, going twice. T-Men, rebut
Okay.
and conclude.
Yes, perfect. So the first thing I actually want to ask Nikita is, have you actually read the question right? Because it's not about the fact, what is China doing? It's about the fact, is China capable of being a world leader in this sense? So I'll just talk about a few things you would talk about. Okay, yes, the US has set a target with China so to get a carbon neutrality by 2060, because 2060 was the closest that China would be able to just handle the carbon neutrality, because they're just still challenging they're just poor, because they're still so poor. So they were looking at the country of China and they're like, you're still so poor, you're still developing so much. So let's say 2060, while the US and Europe has been set way earlier, because we are not that poor, we can actually achieve that carbon neutrality. We can achieve those, being a world leader. Also, the thing I want to point out is, how can we point out a world leader? How can we point out a country being a world leader that just is a very big fan of coercion and fear? And that's the thing that they do in China. They spread coercion and fear. And will this remain? Will they try to do this in the entire world as well? Because that will not work. I mean, the Chinese authorities and the Chinese public are afraid of the Chinese politics. But will the entire world be afraid of China? This is not possible, to just be an influence just by coercion and fear, because we've seen this with Hitler. We've seen this in various substances in the last couple of decades. Just by fear, you're not able to, at a certain moment, your empire will fall. Then if we're going back, you're saying solar panels. Is solar panels really the solutions? If we're all very honest here, I think nuclear power is the solution. Solar power, I mean, it'll be very hard. Also, windmills, you need so much space to just drop your windmills that it's actually not achievable to put on so many windmills to just be able to energize the entire world. And okay, they can be world leaders in solar panels and windmills, but is this really the new renewable energy we want? I think nuclear power is the next, will be the real efficient kind of energy, if we're honest here. It's still not very good for the environment. Well, it's not perfect for the environment, but it's better than the other emissions that we're looking at. Then you were showing a graph about the BRY, right? But if we're looking at that, it's just mainly communistic countries which are involved there. They're putting money in communistic countries there. They're putting money in non-democratic countries. Will they also be able to, do they also want to put money in democratic countries? Because when I was looking through the list you were showing us, it was mainly like communistic countries, like countries who are not at all democratic. Then again, you said that by the climate agreement that they are allowed, well, that they dropped out. Well, US was not allowed to drop out by 2020, and then they got restored. So there wasn't that big of a problem, in my opinion. Also, what I wanted to say is, isn't it better that a country who is actually leading in actually emissions by person, that actually takes charge in battling those emissions? I mean, isn't it better that we just look at the US and we're like, okay, so there are 350,000 people in the US. They have so per person, they have the most emissions. Isn't it better that the world leader has the most emissions, so they will tackle it from the front side? They will, if the US is a world leader, we'll have seen in the future, they will actually just continue. They will actually battle it bit better, battle the climate change better than if they're just a follower. The US is not made to be a sheep. They're made to be leaders. They're the wolf pack. China is made to be sheep. And then I would just like to end with a conclusion. I would conclude that the Mordor of China is not a fit country to be world influence. Nor are they fit to be like anything else. You say, well, they're a world leader in windmills and solar panels, but this is not at all the solution that most people have in mind. Like if you just put an essay on, people don't believe that windmills and solar panels are the solution. Well, it's a little part of the solution, but it's not at all the entire solution. China is still building their country, and they're not rich enough to do anything close to the things that the US is capable to. If you look at the startups in the US at the moment, they have so many startups at the moment where it's just helping cars have electric batteries and like so much more different things. And China, I've not seen any startup from China on to do anything special about around the climate change thing. The totalitarian political regime is also not the way to go, because you cannot force the entire world to do things you want just by using your hard power. The US has proven in the past that with their soft power, they are capable of doing all, like, to actually influence a lot of countries to just help the climate change and do other things as well. And then also the last thing I would just like to say, how can we just depend on a country who has been violating human rights for so long? The human right aspect, in my opinion, is just that makes them untrustworthy. That makes them a very untrustworthy country, which makes them unpredictable as well, which is labeled as dangerous in the political world. Let's just look at a past case, right? When COVID hit in China, actually the things that China did during that time was actually horrible. They were actually waiting outside of apartments with water guns, and as soon as someone stepped out, they were just spraying everyone with hard water gun beams, because just they don't care about their own population. So why would they care about the world's population? And that's what I wanted to tell you. Thank you very much.
Okay. Questions to T-Men? Going once. Extra credit question going twice. Going 3 times to challenge T-Men. If not, we will go direct to the conclusion by Pro Nick.
Yes. So I think those are quite some bold statements you made, that China doesn't really have any startups. I think, as I mentioned before, they're actually the leaders in most of the technologies for climate change. I think the question as well is, being a global leader, what does that account for? Does that mean everybody needs to follow the politics of that specific country? Or is it just showing, hey, we have a solution, maybe everybody should start implementing these solutions as well? As well as the BRI that you mentioned, the countries that they've invested, it isn't communistic countries only. It's actually countries whose economies are really rough. As I can show you again, it's actually quite around the world. It's even in Europe as well. It's in Asia, it's in South Africa, it's in Latin America. Of course, they can only do what the countries are willing to do with them as well. But they are willing to invest quite a lot of money in countries who are don't have the resources for those specific types of technologies as well. Also, as I return here, I wanted to show some graphs. So here is the climate change performance index. These are the rankings of all the countries. As you can see, some of the best countries here are like the Nordic countries in Europe. But if I can show you here, so China is actually ranked around the middle. There, the blue one is the emissions. So they're actually quite good in keeping their emissions down because they've already heavily invested in emissions, and as well as the climate policy. They're really trying to account for climate change and try to have an impact. Therefore, their policy is really good in comparison to the US, which is here. So as you can see, there is basically nothing here for renewable energy, which is quite funny because you keep saying, is solar panels, wind force, or hydro energy actually a thing that should be accounted for climate change? I think it definitely does for the foreseeable future. As well as policy here, you can see it actually isn't really that heavily invested as China as well. Now, what I do want to mention is the energy use. The energy use still needs to be accounted for, but it's quite funny to think that the top two emitters, one is actually in the middle, whilst the other is almost near the bottom. Whilst, as you say, United States actually, its economy is much more stable, and they have more relations with countries around the world. So I think as a verdict, I can say that looking ahead of the US climate plans, they are more ambitious than China's. Joe Biden has pledged to at least halve the emissions by 2030 from the 2005 levels. But China is at a different stage of development. So that should also take a factor in working out what country is taking their fair share in climate change, because China is very ahead in renewable energy. And
Okay. Mm-hmm.
and it's also yet to be seen if the US Democrats' cornerstone for climate policy can actually make it through to the Congress.
All right. So before I comment, if anybody has a question, here's your last chance. If not, then let me go to the Cyber Campus vote, and so that you can vote anonymously on who won the debate. So please,
Sir, do I also have to vote or not?
Oh, sure, yeah, it's anonymous. I don't know who's voting. It's anonymous, so nobody knows. So 15 seconds. And it's close. I don't know if everybody's voted. I don't think so. Maybe they want some more time to think about this. I mean, the session is open until 12 o'clock and then it locks down. So, you know, if you do vote after class is over, you have until 10 minutes to 12, you have until 12 o'clock. And great, the debate. Okay. And again, you have until 12 o'clock to vote before it's locked. All right, so that was an impressive debate, and it definitely got me thinking about current news reports about Peng Shuai, the tennis star who publicly charged a former Politburo High Communist Party official for sexually raping or assaulting her on social media, and then she was disappeared, and as she's been reappearing and was stage managed awkward media events that seem to be something stage managed by the authorities. And the World Women's Tennis Association announced it's canceling all future tennis tournaments in China until it has the chance to interview Peng Shuai, the women's Chinese women's star. And you know, because of the awkwardness of the situation. So definitely does raise questions about what does it mean for China to provide leadership, and what is this? What is soft power? What is hard power? What does leadership mean? What are we talking about? What does the role of a political system imply in terms of persuading people in the nuclear setting to cooperate with you even if democracies make mistakes, like the way the Americans made a mistake, a gross mistake, tragedy in Vietnam and then in Afghanistan. So what is the role of democracy? Does it make a difference? How is that going to appeal to post-colonial countries like Myanmar or Indonesia or Malaysia, with these multi-ethnic states with arbitrarily drawn borders drawn by the Portuguese, the French, the Spanish, the British, that are not really democracies or anyway in terms of how they function? Are they going to be that concerned about democratic issues in China if Indonesia, for example, or Philippines desperately need access to resources to develop and while at the same time adapting to global climate change? Lots of important questions for us to consider here. And okay, so in the 3 minutes remaining, I'm curious to get your feedback on your view about what you think United States is in terms of let me open up the session here before. Let's see, is this the question? I think this is the no, this is not it. This is the second. See if I can find it here. I thought I had it ready to go. Okay, yeah. So this issue of appeasement, yeah, that came up earlier. So I think you can see this this short news report. Let me make sure you can see it. Again, this term appeasement has emerged in the most recent news report that I downloaded yesterday from the New York Times. The Biden administration is removing the FARC, which is an organization fighting the Colombian government for 50 years against what they view as tyranny and abuse by the military against the peasants in this country. In Colombia and Latin America, this fighting left more than 220,000 people dead. During the Cold War, of course, the United States suspected that FARC was basically a revolutionary organization serving the interests of Castro in Cuba and communism in general. And then in November 2016, a ceasefire agreement was finally reached after decades and decades of violence and conflict between the revolutionary forces of Colombia and the Colombian government, which is often dominated by right-wing officials. Like, for example, Ivan Duque is the president of Colombia, and he's a right-wing figure as well. And of course, trying to implement this ceasefire agreement has been difficult. The Biden administration is committed, has removed FARC from its list of terrorist organizations. Some Republicans have criticized the Biden administration's decision to remove the FARC's terrorist group designation from the United States designation of the group as a terrorist organization. After the planned action was first reported last week by the Wall Street Journal, the top Republican on the House Foreign Affairs Committee, Representative Mike McCall of Texas, called the move an exercise in appeasement. So appeasement bad, appeasement bad. FARC members have not exercised remorse or acts of contrition for their ongoing narco-terrorism against innocent Colombians and Americans, Mr. McCall wrote on Twitter. President Biden's decision to remove the FARC from the State Department's list of foreign terrorist organizations will embolden terrorist groups throughout Latin America, empower narco-traffickers, and pave the way for Castro-Chauvinismo in Colombia, Florida's Republican Governor Ron DeSantis said in a statement. So my final question to you is, for today, how do you respond to this statement? Was the Soviet Union basically a Russian version of Nazi Germany? And this is an anonymous vote. So the Soviet Union was basically a Russian version of Nazi Germany. What's your view about the Cold War? Was the Soviet Union basically a Russian version of Nazi Germany? It's anonymous, so I don't know how you're voting. Was Soviet Union Mordor? Okay, so that looks like close to just about everybody, if not everybody. Okay, that's it for today. And thank you for accommodating me. So the next time we will meet will be on Friday as a class for the last debate. And then I will be meeting with you individually to talk about the first draft of your papers. Okay?
Sir, will you send a reminder for the Friday class?
Oh, of course.
Oh,
of
okay.
course. Okay. Bye.